Paramount Parks were one of the largest amusement park chains throughout the 90s and early 2000s, including parks such as King's Dominion, Canada's Wonderland, Carowinds, and even more. These parks would dominate the amusement industry. However, there was one park that they loaded with ambitious new attractions. That park would be none other than Kings Island. Rides such as The Beast, Phantom Theater, King Cobra, and Vortex were king. But something was missing.
In 1999, Paramount's Kings Island would announce their biggest and baddest roller coaster yet, Son of Beast. The coaster would break 7 world records, along with becoming the first modern wooden coaster to include an inversion, and the first ever wooden hypercoaster.
Throughout the construction phase, the coaster was already set to become a disaster. Problem after problem occurred with the park and the manufacturer, and when it opened, it didn't live up to the hype.
What was once the world's tallest, fastest, and longest roller coaster in the world is now one of the biggest failures of all time in the amusement industry.
Was the new record-breaking coaster worth the $20 million? Let's dive deep into the history to learn the story behind Son of Beast. Kings Island opened in Mason, Ohio on April 29, 1972. The park opened as a much larger and extended Coney Island, which was a small park near Kings Island that was too small for new additions and was prone to flooding. The son of the president of Coney Island, Gary Walks, made a deal with the Taft Broadcasting Company to not only buy Coney Island, but also buy 1,600 acres of land right outside of Cincinnati, Ohio. Kings Island opened as an extremely popular park to locals, and since the Taft Broadcasting Company had access to the Hanna-Barbera brand, families could meet their favorite cartoon characters and maybe even step into their wacky life. The park would open with 3 roller coasters: the Bavarian Beetle, an SDC Galaxy coaster, Scooby-Doo, a John C. Allen family wooden coaster, and the legendary Racer, a side-by-side racing wooden coaster. Throughout the park's first few years of operation, attendance would rise, and they would even add an Aero Shuttle launched coaster named Demon. And they would later add the legendary wooden roller coaster we all know today as The Beast in 1979. Due to Kings Island's success, the Taft Broadcasting Company would acquire and open 2 new parks. In 1975, the Taft Broadcasting Company would build King's Dominion in Doswell, Virginia, and in that same year, Taft would acquire Carowinds in Charlotte, North Carolina. Following the success of these 2 parks, Taft would build Canada's Wonderland in Vaughan, Ontario, Canada in 1981. After this, we would see a major shift as the Taft Broadcasting Company would sell their parks to the King's Entertainment Company in 1984 for nearly $168 million. Following this deal, the King's Entertainment Company would acquire Marriott's Great America in Santa Clara, California, leaving the other Marriott park to Premier Parks. Throughout the next 8 years, each park would receive 1 roller coaster. Kings Island would receive Adventure Express, an Aero Mine Train. King's Dominion would receive Anaconda, an Aero Custom Looper. Carowinds would receive a B&M stand-up named Vortex. Great America would also receive a B&M stand-up named Vortex. And Canada's Wonderland would receive an Aero suspended swinging coaster, also known as Vortex.
The owners of Kings Island were looking to end their contract with the King's Entertainment Company. However, the company already had an interest in selling the 5 parks, and finally, in 1992, the parks would be sold to Paramount Communications. After Paramount found itself under new management, they would undergo major changes by shifting their focus onto entertainment. Paramount would sell most of their older properties to make enough money to buy TV stations and the 5 parks under the King's Entertainment Company for $400 million.
Paramount needed to promote their new parks since they were now competing with major theme park chains such as Universal and Disney. They would rename all their parks by putting Paramount in front of all of the parks' names. Paramount Parks would immediately use their brand to their advantage by opening new rides and attractions at all 5 parks pertaining to some of their most popular movies. For instance, Kings Island, Canada's Wonderland, and Great America would receive new coasters themed to the Top Gun franchise, and Kings Dominion and Carowinds would receive new wooden coasters themed to Wayne's World. Kings Island would later receive an indoor premiere-launched roller coaster named Flight of Fear, and they would also receive a new Vekoma in Vertigo named Face Off. Face Off would become a part of Paramount's Kings Island newest land known as the Paramount Action Zone, which also included Top Gun and Drop Zone. Even though the park would add new additions frequently, there was always one ride that stood out as the park's signature attraction. That would be none other than the Beast. When the coaster opened, it would hold the world record for the tallest, fastest, and longest wooden roller coaster in the world. 20 years after the opening, it would still hold the record as the longest wooden coaster in the world. Park goers and enthusiasts knew that it would only be a matter of time until the park would build another Beast. However, no one expected Kings Island's next roller coaster.
Get ready for a part of the future with the announcement of yet another world-class ride. You know, the Beast was enchained in 1979, and at the time, even then, it was acclaimed as the world's greatest roller coaster. Highest, fastest, longest. In fact, it still holds a Guinness World Record for world's longest wooden roller coaster. It continues to reign as the #1 classic coaster of all time. You know, in fact, the Beast is so popular, it's given a grand total of more than 31,500,000 rides over the past 20 years.
Looks like somebody's getting a little on the nasty side, guys. Can you, thanks. This is the birthday gift that we want to present today, and I'm thrilled. In my first day on the job as Director of Thrills to make this historic announcement that Paramount's Kings Island is going to unleash on the world something that we can call the sequel to The Beast. This is the Son of Beast.
On May 11th, 1999, Kings Island announced the Son of Beast, the world's tallest and fastest wooden coaster. Plus, it would be the first ever wooden coaster to include an inversion. The coaster would be built by the Roller Coaster Corporation of America, or RCCA for short. This particular manufacturer had an interest in building the first ever wooden hypercoaster, and now their opportunity had come. Construction would begin immediately, but things wouldn't go as planned. A few months into construction, a windstorm would strike Kings Island, which caused some of the temporary wind supports to collapse. Luckily, Kings Island was able to quickly handle the repairs, and they still somehow promised a spring opening day. In April of 2000, right before the opening of the new coaster, Paramount Parks would fire RCCA and would continue to finish the ride themselves.
Son of Beast would finally open on May 24, 2000, only to close the next day due to a 15-foot rough patch of track. The coaster would soon reopen, and thousands of people flocked to Kings Island to experience the record-breaking coaster. The coaster would dominate the park's skyline due to its massive height, but would it live up to the hype? It took me 13 visits to Kings Island that year to finally take my first ride on Son of Beast. My first ride was taken exactly at midnight in the front row during a coaster event ERT in July. While I was happy to take my first ride, it proved to me that it was going to be a challenge to enjoy the coaster. The lift hill, including the loudest anti-rollbacks I have ever heard, was a setup for what was to follow. The 214-foot drop, while record-breaking and visually imposing, provided great acceleration. However, at the bottom of that drop, I experienced my first real roughness that the ride was notorious for. Its roughness was unlike any other roughness I had ever felt on a coaster before. It was just different. The rest of the ride's layout had some seriously jarring moments. What made most of these rough sections hard to enjoy had a lot to do with the trains provided by Premier Rides. They simply weren't comfortable to ride in, at least in my opinion. After the very first ride, it became a mission for me to find out if Sunny was capable of providing a decent ride. Out of the couple hundred rides I took over the years, most of them were taken during photo or video shoots where I was an extra, allowing me to take dozens of rides at a time. Despite its rough nature, I can firmly say that it was possible to have a somewhat decent ride on the coaster. Yeah, the decent rides were few and far between, but they were possible. While the layout wasn't what I feel most enthusiasts would rave about, there was one element on the coaster that pretty much everyone was raving about: the loop. It was massive, it was smooth, and it was by far the highlight of the ride for most everyone that zoomed through it. Once the park removed the loop, I took a total of 2 rides on that coaster before making a choice not to ride it again.
The ride would start as you enter Outpost 5, a security tower that was dispatching vehicles to check on the Son of Beast. You would then board the trains and experience the Son of Beast. The layout went as follows. The coaster would dispatch out of the station into a section of straight track. Following this, the coaster would turn down a 51-foot drop. It would then ascend into another small drop to the left and head into a massive 218-foot tall lift hill. The pre-section alone would give riders a tease on what this coaster had to offer. After ascending the massive lift hill, the coaster would take a large dip to the left and head into the massive 214-foot drop. This drop alone could intimidate anyone, even from a distance. After descending the 56-degree drop, the coaster would turn up to the right and dive down the 164-foot spaghetti bowl helix. This element would take you down the massive drop and turn right back up, only for you to then dive right back down into another giant drop and turn right back up into the mid-course brake run. This was by far one of the largest elements on the roller coaster. Following the mid-course, the coaster would then dive down another massive drop and head into its signature element, a 118-foot tall teardrop loop, the first ever inversion on wooden coaster. However, this loop would use steel track and steel supports instead of using wooden track and supports. This element was known for being the best part of the ride, not because of its intensity, but because it was the only part of this coaster that was actually smooth. Following the loop, the coaster would ascend into another double helix, this one being much smaller than the first. After this, you would then go into a large airtime hill and then transition into a small upwards helix. Following this, you would then go down your final drop and head up into the final brake run, which would then return you to the station. While the coaster would be taller and faster than the Beast, it would be a shorter ride in both length and in duration, as the Beast would be 327 feet and 1 minute and 50 seconds longer than its son. When the Son of Beast opened, most people preferred the original Beast because it was a smoother and longer ride. However, some people preferred the rough and fast-paced ride the Son of Beast gave. While the Son of Beast drew large crowds to Paramount's Kings Island as you could see the coaster from anywhere, it would be significantly rougher than its father, which was odd since the original Beast was 21 years older than its son. Now, why was the Son of Beast so rough? This is when we look back at the construction phase to understand why.
After Kings Island fired RCCA, the park would discover how many problems the coaster had. A few months after the coaster's initial opening, the park would not only sue RCCA, the manufacturer of the coaster, they would go on to sue Wooden Structures Incorporated, the lead structural engineering firm, and the Universal Forest Products of Hamilton, who provided the lumber. RCCA and Wooden Structures Incorporated were sued for poor engineering. Universal Forest Products were sued for using sub-grade lumber for the coaster. RCCA fought back by saying Kings Island ignored safety protocols after they took over the project. While all this was being hashed out in court, Son of Beast would continue to operate.
In 2005, when Viacom, Paramount's parent company, split into Viacom and the CBS Corporation, CBS would get the rights to all 5 Paramount parks. Within 6 months, CBS would put all 5 of the Paramount parks for sale. 6 months after they put the parks out for sale, Cedar Fair would buy all 5 Paramount parks. Paramount's Kings Island would once again be renamed back to Kings Island, losing the Paramount title. However, just 9 days after Cedar Fair gained the rights to the park, on July 9, 2006, the Son of Beast would stop violently in the middle of the ride. Rescue teams would evacuate all the guests on the train. No one knew what caused this accident, so Kings Island made the decision to close the ride down for the rest of the 2006 season. Ohio's Department of Agriculture would investigate the ride, and they would find that a support beam had collapsed, causing a dip in the track, resulting in a sudden stop. In 2007, the park attempted to make the ride smoother by adding lighter trains. These trains were made by Gerstlauer and were relocated from Myrtle Beach's Hurricane roller coaster. Unfortunately, the trains would be too light to complete the layout, which means that Kings Island was forced to remove the 118-foot tall loop so the coaster can complete the entire layout. The loop was replaced with a section of straight track, which in a way made the ride even worse. The ride would continue to operate for 2 more years until June 16, 2009, the coaster would once again close. However, this time it would close because a woman alleged that it caused a blood vessel to burst inside of her brain. For safety reasons, Kings Island would close the coaster and would once again get inspected by Ohio's Department of Agriculture. Following the closure, the park would then remove the Son of Beast from its website and marketing. Kings Island would then announce that the coaster would not open for the 2010 season. They would then make the same announcement for the 2011 season and the 2012 season, but finally on July 27, 2012, Kings Island would finally make the announcement that the Son of Beast was getting the boot. Demolition began that September and would finish in November of that same year. 2 years after the Son of Beast was demolished, Kings Island would open Banshee, the longest inverted coaster in the world. While it wouldn't take up all of the land from Son of Beast, it would be a much better ride than what stood in its place. Today, Outpost 5 still stands at Kings Island and is used as a haunted house for the park's Halloween event. To this day, a section of the track still sticks out of the station, showing all that's left of the Son of Beast. So, was the coaster worth the $20 million? No, not at all. While Banshee is one of my personal favorite roller coasters, I wish I could have at least seen the massive wooden structure that nobody has attempted to rival. Thank you guys for watching my latest episode of The Story Behind. Remember, if you have any coaster, dark ride, or attraction you want to learn the story behind, just leave a comment down below and it might just be my next episode. Also, a big shout out to Sean Flaharty for collabing with me on this video. If you haven't yet, go check out his channel down below in the description. Most of this footage was by him in this video. Make sure to subscribe for new videos just like this every week. This is Hunter from Theme Park Hunting, and I'll see you guys later, and follow the thrill.